Good morning, everyone. We're excited to have you all here today. We're going to give everybody about a minute or so before we get going. We've got a great crowd, Alissa and Lucas. We're excited to hear tips.
We're excited too. This will be great.
No, it sure will. Yeah, and it's such a beautiful sunshine here on this day. Isn't that wonderful?
So great. And have a wonderful weekend.
I know.
Great.
It's always nice when the weather is warmer and we can at least get some fresh air right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the kids can be outside.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it's 10 o'clock, so we are going to get going. So I just want to welcome to all of you here today for our virtual talks. As I mentioned, we're excited to have Alissa and Lucas Henriksen here today. We're going to talk to us about how to prep for virtual interviews. And before we get going, I want to just run through our format that we're going to be using for today's webinar and just give you a few tips. You can change your view at any time from the gallery view to the speaker view. So when Lucas and Alissa are speaking, you can get them full frame. Also, I'll be asking them questions during today's session, but you can always use the chat box and Q&A to ask any questions throughout the webinar, and then I'll ask those questions for you. Just so you know, this webinar is recorded and we'll be emailing you a link, but you can also find it on our website at teamwomenmn.org/events. And today, Alissa and I have 4 gifts that you can win today, plus a whole lot more. So you are in for a real treat.
That's right.
For those of you that are joining us that don't know much about TeamWomen, I'm happy to share a little bit about our organization. First of all, my name is Katie Burke, and I'm the Executive Director and a member of the Board of Directors, and I'm happy to be your host today. And I want to share the mission is we inspire women to rise together. We have members, about 650 members, and they come from all industries, from financial services, healthcare, legal, education, nonprofit, military, agriculture, and they are every role. From about 4% of our members are that level on up to the C-suite, 30% are managers and collaborators, 30% are entrepreneurs and consultants. We always have people in transition, and this is a wonderful community if you are in transition to gain access to those that you want to, networks that you want to move into, or just some shared fellowship and comfortable environments. We have 3 pillars that allow you to connect, grow, be inspired, and make a difference. Our mentor program is one of our flagship programs. Twice a year, we launch a cohort where we pair mentees together. It's a 12-month journey the mentor takes, and the organization supports that mentor-mentor relationship throughout the year. We've seen remarkable results from this program. We've seen mentees rise to the C-suite. We've seen them join corporate boards. We've seen them change lanes mid-career and re-enter the workforce. So it's really thrilling to be a mentor on a mentee's journey. You always get more than you give. I encourage you to participate. Our next opportunity for you to join our mentor program is May 6th, and you can apply online. And we'd love to have you on the team as a mentor or a mentee. We do leadership development experiences for both professionals and youth. And we have 3 flag events. Leadership conference will have about 800 attendees August 7th, and we're thrilled. We have our Wavemaker Awards, which are planned by our young professionals, which celebrates up-and-comers, and that's October 22nd. We have our How Rising Stars Gala, which is a fundraiser which provides support for work with youth leaders. The year we do about over 85 signature events. So, and they're all scheduled at different times of the day because of the diversity in everybody's role and schedule. So we like to have a little bit of something for everybody. What COVID-19 has done for our organization has been allow it to quickly pivot into this virtual platform. And we're, again, so grateful to speakers like Alissa and Lucas here that are sharing their expertise with all of you, again, to help you grow. Coming up for webinars, I'm doing all these virtual platforms for both TeamWomen and Empower complimentary. And so coming up April 24th, we've got Erica Dvorak and Brittany Nicholas who are talking about the ways of their career, and they know a thing to do about that. They graduated in the recession 2008. So I'll have some tips about what it might be like for our graduates that are entering this. At the end of the month, we got Stephanie Getz, who's an award-winning, Emmy-winning broadcast, and she's talking on communicating with impact, development. We've switched our live events to virtual events. So in May, you'll find our authors and apps with National will be scheduled on May 14th. We invite you to join as a live stream, and also our TeamWomen Talks, a women's roundtable takes. That's May 18th. So we'd love to see you all there. This month, we launched 4 weekly Our Leadership Academy sessions, and our award-winning coaches coach kids 4 times grades 6 through 8 and 9th through 12th grade on maintaining a positive mindset. That's tough to do for them right now. And also, you know, in this isolating remote environment. So we're there to support them. What's happened is this has taken off gangbusters. Empower has reached kids around the globe. We had Bella from the UK join one of our sessions last week. And we've had from Austin, Texas, and California, and Portland, Oregon. They all need this connectivity just like we do. So we are privileged and honored to be able to provide a platform for them to be able to connect with one another, share their experiences. As a result of our work through our virtual platform for Empower, we're launching Empower at Home, which is a certification program. The month of May, kids can sign up to become resilient leaders, confidence leaders, mental wellness leads, have a leadership certificate. So it's a whole certification program. We'll be doing those every day, and they can opt into whatever track you choose. We wouldn't be able to do our work without our amazing annual sponsors. And we're so, so grateful for you, Gray Search and Strategy, for Salo, for Belicio Foods, Ide Bailey, Lisa Huey, Merrill Lynch, and Mille Lacs Corporate Venture, and Taft Law. We're grateful for all of you. We're equally grateful for our leadership conference sponsors. And just have been able to attract such wonderful organizations to support our work and our future leaders. So with further ado, that's a little bit about our organization. And now I am so thrilled to read the introduction, and I say read because I don't ever like to miss things, and introduce you to Lucas and Alissa. They have a shared entrepreneurial spirit and a love of recruiting that led them to starting their own search firm in 2008. Known for providing a deeper level of strategy and service, their clients range from startups to billion-dollar public corporations. They've successfully recruited executive-level trivia roles, rebuilt recruiting and interviewing processes to attract and retain talent, crafted strategies for challenging rural areas, and developed proprietary playbooks that guide managers through successful hiring and much, much more. Gray Search and Strategy was the TeamWomen Wavemaker Award company champion, has actually been recognized as both a Minnesota Business Magazine's Women Who Lead and a Minneapolis Business Journal 40 Under 40. Alissa is the president of the board of the International Dyslexia Association's Upper Midwest branch and sits on the board of the Minnesota State Chamber of Commerce. Both Alissa and Lucas love to travel and spend time with their family up north. So again, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your expertise. We just know what a huge value you're going to be bringing to all of those in our audience today.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and so do you want to share a little bit about the giveaways before we get going?
Yeah, let's do it. So we have some fun giveaways. One of the things that we do as a company is we always try to tie back to a give back item. And we have 4 of these really awesome bracelets. I'm a big bracelet person. And so if you can see it, they're really beautiful leather with beads, and the beads actually spell out love. And this is through Love Is Project. And what that is when you purchase a bracelet, it actually goes to empowering more female artisans in developing countries. So these women come together and make bracelets in order to support their families. And so we have 4 of those. So we're giving 4 bracelets away, along with Grace Search and Strategy hand sanitizer. We all know we need that now more than ever. And then we also, I can't show you today, but we are getting masks made with our logo on them from another group that is called Craft Made Aprons in Minneapolis. And half of the proceeds of those masks go back to restaurants in the area in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So we're really excited to be able to do that. So each, like I said, 4 giveaways. You'll get the mask, the hand sanitizer, and the bracelet. So
those are so cute. I love them. So I'm excited for our viewers. And we're going to just share some questions, and then people can write their answers, and then we'll back who the winner is. So, well, let's get going, okay? And I would love it, and I know our audience would love it if you just share tips that can help people prep for their job search.
Yeah, for sure. So right now, more than ever, we understand the situation that a lot of us are in, right? Due to layoffs, it's a pretty tough time. And the thing that you need to make sure that you focus on are your core strengths, are the things that you've been doing in your past, and really how you can carry that forward. What you don't want to be doing is applying to every job, right? Even if you think, oh, I can do that, or I can do that too. When you start applying to a number of different positions, it's going to cause confusion in your mind about what it is that you want to be doing or that you should be doing. And that confusion is going to carry forward in everything that you do from that step forward. And so think about, this is a time to do some soul searching and to make a decision. What have I done? What am I good at? And where do I want to go from here? And focus in on those positions with those companies. And then I would say the next tip beyond that is when you do that, when you have that kind of organization in your mind, that carries into then how you structure your resume. Resume is so important. And we're going to talk more about resume and even another great thing that Grace Search is doing right now. But your resume is your story, right? And so you want to make sure that when you are putting that together, that it's very clear as to what you've done in your responsibilities. When you start grabbing at a number of different positions, that resume is going to get pretty confusing. And so just be clear with what job you want, and then start thinking about how that your background and your experience carries over into that resume and the organization of that resume.
Yeah, those are great tips. A few other ones too that kind of help people prep is that I've come across, so we're obviously recruiters and we talk to a lot of different people, but oftentimes people don't put their information of how to contact them, or it's outdated, or it's a house number. Make sure the numbers or email addresses that you have listed are the ones that you want to be contacted at, and make them noticeable, right? And with your resume, we recommend to having it in your header so it's on every page if you have a multi-page resume. But again, make sure that those numbers and contact information is readily available, and that's the information that you want out there.
Yeah.
Another thing too that's hard to do sometimes when you feel like you're just always interviewing is a hard thing to do, but show that resilience. We are big storytellers in what we do for our clients, and also too in just in everyday life. Showing your resilience, meaning not just your strengths, but those challenges that you've maybe faced in your current or previous work, and really highlight those obstacles, those things that you had to overcome, and how did you do that? So when you're prepping before you've interviewed, think about those types of opportunities that you can really show those accomplishments that maybe started out as a negative, but maybe became something that you're proud of. Lastly, too, one thing that I think seems common that people maybe don't put a lot of effort in is having thoughtful questions. Most of the time, you're going to be given the opportunity to ask questions. Steer away from compensation right away. I mean, if it's asked of you, like what your salary has been, sure, that makes sense. But have thoughtful questions about the business, about their strategy, depending on the role that you're looking at, the culture, the team that's there. Is there anything about you that's maybe missing, or what is that interviewer asking, or what are you going to ask that interviewer about in terms of what could you be doing better to present yourself, but how do you stack up to maybe some of those other individuals as well? So those are 5 quick tips of how to help prep and maybe process beforehand.
Yeah, and I would say, just to be very clear, the last question you want to ask when you're on the phone or virtual interview, before you wrap up, especially you've had this time, you've shared your story, is this: is there anything that you've heard about my background and experience that brings you concern? Okay, that is an absolute must ask question. And I will say must ask, because what that's going to do is it's going to, if there's been a misunderstanding or a miscommunication throughout that interview process, they're going to bring it up and then you can clear it, right? But then you also have the opportunity, if there is something that they mention, like, well, you haven't traveled as much as we would like to see, or you haven't implemented, that type of a system before, then you can talk about other things you've done to overcome challenges or things you haven't done before. So make sure you ask that question.
That's such a great tip. Yeah. And communication is so key, like you said. And if you would be able to still be in the game. If it's something that you haven't, stated because it didn't come up, forthright question. Oh, Lindsay was asking if we repeat that question that was asked. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. The question was, what are some tips that you share to help people prep for their search? So that was the question. So now I'm going to go on and move on to the next question, which is getting ready for...
Before you do that, though, you have to do a giveaway.
Oh, gosh darn it. Yes, you're right.
Yes. And then I think the question that they're asking is, what is the question you should ask at the end? The question is there anything that you've heard throughout this discussion that brings you concern? So is there anything I've mentioned throughout this interview or that you've learned about me that brings you concern? And that's what you're going to ask during that interview, the last one before you're wrapping it up. So you can make sure you put anything that's a concern to bed. That's
right. Thank you so much. You're right. And thanks, Stacy, for chiming in and sharing that too. So the giveaway, then the question we're asking for the giveaway is, please guess your daughter's age.
Yes.
Correct.
They have a daughter. So the first person to guess her age will be the winner of the first gift. Okay. Yep. So
and you guys are going to follow up to get addresses too. So we're excited about that.
Exactly. We have a lot of
I see the winner. I see a winner.
That's so exciting.
That's
all right. Yeah. We'll have to follow up, like you said, to get those addresses. So we'll do that. Okay. So moving on to our next one is, we're getting ready for a virtual interview. What prep should you do?
A lot.
Yeah. Well, right now, I think we're dealing with it. And so getting ready for a virtual interview is obviously having your room set up, having the technology that you need, making sure your iPhone or your smartphone has the right setting or has the right app. There's a lot of different platforms out there. Obviously, we're on Zoom, which we use for our own business, and it works normally pretty well.
Yeah.
But you can't control the internet. And right now, we live out in west side of Lake Minnetonka, and we've upgraded our internet. I've upgraded our router and our router and our modems to hopefully support this, and it still seems to be in and out. So, and you can't control that. So what my recommendation is, so making sure that your iPhone or your smartphone has also the app. Like Zoom has a really easy app if that's the platform you're going to be. So if you need to pivot, you're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure that those apps, you're comfortable with them.
Yeah.
Like we were prepping beforehand this meeting just to make sure our technology was working, and kind of didn't. But that's the big thing, just understanding whatever that virtual platform you're going to be using, know the functions. So if something comes up, or if you want to put a different background behind you, there's those options as well. Just so you're comfortable with it, so you're not stressed about that while you're trying to get onto the meeting, and then from there moving forward.
Yeah. And the thing is you want to make sure your room is set up where you're comfortable, right? Like we get it. Number one, a lot of you aren't comfortable with a virtual interview. This is so different. And so take a deep breath. It's okay. You're not alone, make your room very comfortable. Light a candle out of the way if you need to, right? But you want your background. There are a lot of different background options based on some of the technology that you're using. Don't make that distracting. Even though it might be fun, for an interview, keep it simple, right? Because the focus needs to be on you.
Right.
And you don't want that distraction to impact the way that you're able to present yourself. And then two, we know right now, we have 2 kids, right? We have 2 dogs. And so in this situation, you want to make sure that you've given yourself enough time to put the dogs in a kennel or in a room, not the kids, the dogs.
Well, maybe.
And then to just make sure the kids are situated. So, that's an important thing. So just your environment, make sure it's very clean and safe. And then to make sure that you are feeling good, right? That you're ready for a virtual interview. You guys, you got to make sure that you're also dressed for it. Just because you're home doesn't mean that you shouldn't be dressed for the interview. Okay.
I have one thing that I don't anyone reads the Star Tribune, but there was a city councilman for North Oaks that did his city council meeting in the hot tub. That's maybe one place not to do a virtual meeting or interview. Could be quite awkward.
Yeah. So dress the part, have the room ready. Like Lucas said, practice. You guys, there's nothing wrong with mentioning to a friend, hey, can we Zoom with each other? Can you just ask me some questions? Can we make sure that, I'm feeling good about what's happening in my space and just feeling really comfortable. When you practice, things just happen. We all know that, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I think one thing too, we see a lot of great questions or comments in the chat. Having a window behind you sometimes isn't the best. Correct. Because then it darkens your face. Having this wall, it's not bad. It's more about just so it's not distracting behind right. you. Obviously, we put our Gray search information up there, but having something that's appeasing, but it focuses on you.
Yes. Yeah.
We actually, another quick tip is that, again, we're not asking you to spend money, but we do a lot of videos, or Alissa does a lot of videos, and I ended up buying and finding online a vlogging kit, which has 3 options for your phone to be held in, and it has a light option too. I think it was like $40.
Yeah.
And it's worked really, really
natural light. Do you see it? Like all this natural light.
And so anyways, there's a lot of different things that you can inexpensively get your room ready.
Yes.
But the big thing is practicing before, know what to expect if something bad happens, like the internet goes out.
And last, I'm going to say this. If a kid or a dog runs into the room unexpected, you've done everything you can. It's okay. Take a deep breath, move on. It's no big deal because we're all dealing with it. Okay. And if somebody in this situation is going to have a problem with that, that's kind of an interesting, you're kind of seeing into maybe culture a little bit.
Yep. And the kit that I bought is called a vlogging kit. So instead of vlogging. And I don't know the brand. I can probably find it again, but I think I bought it through Best Buy online. But I'm sure you can find it on Amazon or whatever. There was a lot of options. We had the one that's a pedestal, which can be raised or lowered.
Yep.
But yeah, hopefully that helps out.
Those are excellent tips. I know, and our chat is going crazy. One question we had is, what about the hair? Right?
Yeah.
From Jill.
Yeah.
Jill Blehamdy said, and yes, natural light. She's also in the production industry, and then Hilda is offering that you can also buy the vlogging kit on Amazon. So she just ordered one, and then Susan's saying not a plain white wall, right?
Correct.
So might look a little institutional.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's cold. You don't want that.
Yeah.
You don't want like a Van Halen poster in the background or anything like that.
But Zoom itself, if that's the platform you're using, they do have
Yeah.
their own fake backgrounds you can put on, which we're using with our kids in their school.
Yeah.
So which they're pretty nice ones. I think these Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
Again, just not distracting for an interview.
No, exactly. Yeah. I do know with Zoom, you do have to have an upgraded camera on your laptop to use that. And if you don't have that, then, because I tried it on mine and it looks alien, otherwise you just have to have a green screen. So yeah, we're all learning all sorts of things. So this is just great info. So now what other tips? Oh, wait a second.
We have to do another giveaway.
Oh, sorry. Why do I keep forgetting that? That's the most
okay.
fun part. Yeah. Practice. Yeah. Okay. So here's the question. How old is Alissa and Lucas' son? That's the question. Okay. So go ahead. Guess. Start your guessing. Here it comes. Yeah.
Ooh, there we go. You see it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Awesome. So, all right, moving on to our next question. What are some other tips a candidate can do to stand out and separate themselves from a crowd? That's a great question.
Yeah. So I think, right now, there was a time where maybe people were saying cover letters were a thing of the past, or brag books, those types of tools that you can put together that really highlight more of who you are or what you're really looking for. That is, I can't tell you how often we get a resume and we get a cover letter, or a resume cover letter and brag book, and it shows so much about that individual, and that extra work that they're doing, it really shows up, right? It shows up because, number one, they're more in control or comfortable in the interview process because of this work that they've put in, and they've read the cover letter so many times. They've tweaked their resume, they put some thoughts and detail into a brag book. And so those things, when you package that together and you send it to an employer, that employer knows you're serious and that you really want to show or highlight what it is you want and your strengths. A brag book is something, for example, which is a question. This is, it's highlighting awards you've received. Let's say you received a lot of compliments from your boss or from your customers, and it's talking about you, your character, your follow through. Maybe you're a designer, and so it's almost like a portfolio of the designs you've done, right? It's, if you're in sales, it's awards, or it's numbers. Numbers are key. You want numbers a part of everything: resume, cover letter, brag book. So a brag book is an example. It kind of is a history of some work that you've done. Now, this doesn't mean, it doesn't need to be like this thick. It's just some documents that help separate you from others that may be interviewing for that position. And if there's something very specific that you want to highlight that ties to that job, that's what should be part of your brag book.
Right.
And then the other thing, you guys, we're all into virtual, right? I mean, even before this, virtual tours, videos, we were all becoming, and we will become even more technologically savvy. And so if you want to do something different, do a little video intro of yourself.
Sure.
Say who you are, where you're from, what you're passionate about, what you're looking for in your career, and why that job is interesting for you and why you're excited to go forward. And then I would say another tip would be, just make sure socially, when we're talking about that your social presence is professional and that it's in sync. So your resume lines up with your LinkedIn profile, and that's not off kilter. They're not lining up. People look at that. If you're missing a job on your resume, but it's shining there on your LinkedIn profile, we're going to have more questions as to why you left it off your resume. So just make sure pictures are professional. You'd be proud if your grandparents saw it, that, those pictures are okay and that things are lining up.
Yeah, there's so many social tools out there. TikTok, obviously,
Yes.
just make sure what's out there is what you feel comfortable with. I've had it before where candidate had something out there and they were checked, and it's caused concern, right? So anything you can do to make sure that you're ready and you separate yourself online as well. A couple other last tips are pretty straightforward, but I think often forgot, or in the moment maybe get clammed up. But during an interview, be engaging. Alissa and I are very passionate the way it is, and but show your interest, express your interest, and be excited. And don't sit back if you sit back like a normal thing, if you're at a table interviewing, if you sit back and your arms are crossed, that's typically not a good thing.
Yeah.
Same with a video. You can get in there and be interested, be engaged, have good eye contact, even though it's a little awkward with the video. Just make sure that you own your time, that you're respectfully confident is a word that we really like to use too. And then after it's all over, make sure you receive the person's email address.
Yes.
So ask for the email address, which is another question, and then send that follow-up thank you. People ask, well, should we wait a certain amount of days? I don't think so. I think if you're super interested or not, just send it right away, and capture a couple moments of that interview, that conversation you had that really spoke to you, and highlight that in your thank you email. So making it more personal is the big point. If there's multiple people on the virtual interview, I suggest sending each person an individual email, not just a big blanket one. Anything that you can do just to continue to show your interest and hit those individuals, I think is a great tip to practice. And it doesn't take a lot of time.
Right. Yep.
Those are just, again, such awesome tips. And I really love the presence, like how just lean into a video. Do feel kind of uncomfortable, but you two are shining examples of how to be like on videos. And your rapport with each other is really great. So yeah, it's fun to watch. Yeah. It's like you're leading by example. So thank you.
Well, just don't be timid, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think people get so timid and they're so overwhelmed by some of the new things. When you lean in, it shows confidence.
Right.
When you lean, like we have to lean into a lot right now, right? So lean in and be confident, be proud of what you're bringing to the table. And I know the right fit will happen when you're yourself.
Absolutely.
So.
Exactly. So we have a few more questions on that, and I'm going to ask. Michelle says, in today's situation, do you feel it's a good time to look for a job, changing versus need?
Good question. So here's the deal. I would say it's all based on your situation. I mean, if you're loving where you're at and things are going very, very well, then no, continue forward. But if you're finding right now, based on the current situation and state, maybe you're learning some new things about the way people are reacting and responding to what's going on. It's always okay, right? We advise our clients, you never rush a hire. We should never be rushing into hiring somebody. We want to make sure it's the right fit. And so we take the necessary steps to do that. And so you should be doing the same thing. You're never going to rush into a job. So make sure that you're asking the right questions so that it feels good in your gut and in your heart, right, that if you do make that change, it's meant to be. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and right now too, no better time, I mean, to research other companies. If there's something in the back of your mind that thinks that you should be looking elsewhere, do your research, right? I think we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Research is key, actually. Yeah. It's key. You have to research.
And for us, when we recruit, the whole concept of gray, it isn't a color. It is a color, but it's not like our last names, obviously. It's the attributes, right? It's those in between the lines. It's the attributes of people, attributes of the company, the culture, right? That's where we really find it to be important to when you're trying to match a person to a company, is understanding, do those attributes align? Yeah. And if you want to do your research, if it were me doing the research, I would do the same thing. Correct. It's what I'm finding on their social channels, on their website. Is it speaking to me? And then obviously going in and seeing if there's opportunity there as well.
Yep. Ask others who are connected to the company or the brand. What do you know about them?
Right.
I mean, you have to do your research. You have to do your digging. So. And I do think some people want to call us Mr. and Mrs. Gray. It's kind of confusing, but.
We wore that for Halloween one year.
Yeah.
That was
funny.
Yeah.
You answered some of this question already of the follow-up with the person or the team. Best way to follow up. You kind of answered that with the thank you note, but I don't think you mentioned about the references, having those available.
Yep.
So,
Yep. I mean, you can do it two ways. Listen, have the references ready no matter what. Make sure that the references you have on your list can be called at any time. But whether or not you include those on the front end or when we're looking for them, to me, that is never brought up at any point when we're working with our clients. Well, where are the references? It is when it's appropriate, but always have them ready for sure.
And make sure the references know they're a reference.
Right. Yep.
And they're going to give you a reference that you want. I've had it, again, many different times that I appreciate the honesty, but just make sure if those are the people that you're listing, they know they're a reference, and obviously they can tell a good story for you.
that's awesome. Okay, so time for another giveaway.
Yeah.
I remembered this time. So the question is, what is their favorite holidays? What favorite holiday of family of Lucas and Alissa? So go ahead.
You have a favorite.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Okay, so we also had a few more quick questions on that before I get lost in the chat. Like Julie Lynn asked, are infographic-based CVs still appropriate? If so, is this sent with the resume or better as a follow-up for another reason to connect or follow up? That was a good question.
It's a good question. You know, you could do both, and I hate answering it that way, but I always end up, it's a feeling for me when I based on our client, but I would say if your resume is top notch, and again, we're going to share a little something at the end of this about resumes, but if it's in a great spot, do it as a follow-up. I mean, by the way, you should be following up almost like weekly, right? And so that's it's a leave behind, just like the brag book. Do you leave that behind? Yeah, you leave it behind. Don't let them forget just how good you are at your job. Leave that behind or email it in a PDF, whatever you want to do. But I would say you can absolutely, the question is, do it as a follow-up. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Keep yourself in front of that person, front of mind.
I love the idea of leaving the brag book behind. I had never heard about that too. And then Lindsay's asking if there is, if you have a lead or a brag book that would be sent to attendees, or maybe just, you know, a PDF of something that you've seen that you really like, so she could use it as a template.
Yeah, we can circle back on that. We don't, because it's from candidates, but we could absolutely take something that we've received from candidates and put
like. Yeah. Yep. I've just seen people create their own too. Yeah. So, and that your own personality, they can actually brand it like their resume. They can brand the brag book and have it be a nice little kit, and then do a campaign maybe.
Yes.
Behind and thank you messages. So that's a good idea. Okay. So we our final question, but then go to more questions from our group. What feedback do you receive from clients after an interview? Are there any consistencies that you could share that help people today? Question.
Yeah, so here's where Lucas and I, it can quickly drive us crazy, because we feel that no matter what, every single person deserves feedback. Feedback is what strengthens us as we're going forward. And as a candidate, right. We're not perfect, you guys. We're going to mess up, and that's okay. You got to cut yourself some slack and move on. But some of the things that we're not used to is that interview presentation, right? And so number one, long-winded. When you find that you've been talking consistently for more than 4 minutes, 5 minutes, you got to just take a break and take a deep breath, because there's so much we know you're trying to get into that conversation. But what you want to do is make sure that it's a back and forth, right? The more natural it is, the more that you're just touching on highlights. Trust me, that employer is going to say, oh, I want to hear more about that. So they're going to make a note and they're going to say, let's go back to that. So don't get long-winded. And that long-windedness is actually tied to not being prepared. And so you have to be prepared. Prepared is the practice. It's the research. It's writing down writing down various examples of situations, your strengths, your weaknesses, times you've brought teams together, when you've knocked it out of the park, and when you struggled. You want to have all of these examples written down, because that's going to help you be very prepared in your interview. You want to have great eye contact. I mean, that's key. And make sure you're not, if there's more than one person on a video, especially you're going, who do I look at? You're going to look at all of them. You know, it might feel weird, but make sure that you're making eye contact with everybody. Whether you're in a room or you're virtual, eye contact is such a big deal. And then I would say it's, you know, like Lucas mentioned, when you're sitting back like this, or you're looking out the window, or you're looking down, you know, all of those types of things, that's distracting, and it's showing that you're not as engaged. And then they didn't ask for the job. And I always go, excuse me, they didn't ask for the job. You have to ask for the job. You have to say, listen, I really appreciate your time today. I learned a lot, and it further convinced me that I'm a really great fit for this position, and I want this job, and here's why I want it. I'm very interested. What are the next steps? Okay, you have to ask for the job.
Absolutely. There's a question, the STAR approach of how to answer a question, which is a very common way to follow a process. And Rachel just answered it, but situation, task, action, result. I think is a nice way just to make sure that those answers you're providing, you're kind of going down that bullet point list. It's a nice way to go about it. Or just having those bullet points out of what you'd like to hit are good things. And that's some of the positive feedback we hear too. It kind of goes back to being prepared.
Yep.
You don't know, you're not sure what questions might be asked of you, but you can kind of put together a lot of listed questions and some potential answers that you want to, that you would provide if given so. The other thing too is, Alissa kind of mentioned some of these as well, but being engaged, being excited, be a cheerleader, you know, just not saying that over the top, but show your interest, have this, you know, smile, good eye contact, be confident in yourself, sit there and look positive. I think is a big thing. You know, ask to move forward, like Alissa mentioned. The other thing too is when you're describing common questions that I like to ask, and I think our employers that we work with too like to ask them, why are you interested? And so often people are like,
they get shell-shocked by that
and
question.
you would think it's such a common thing because you applied for the role. So think, why are you interested in this role? What spoke to you about it? Or why are you interested in this company? What do you know about it? So again, going back to your research, applying thoughtfully to roles that you're interested in, knowing as much as you can about those positions, reaching out to individuals that maybe you're connected to that are at that company to get firsthand perspective. I think name dropping, if it's a real opportunity to name drop somebody, I think it's a great thing too, because you're opening the door for these people to go check, you know, that reference that you just provided as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And then again, having your room set up is, I think, a common thing too. And that's been some of the feedback where it was a dark, we couldn't see the face, or there was glitchy issues, which sometimes it's not your fault, but just making sure you can control everything around you that makes you shine the best. Is some of the positive feedback we've had is that they were well prepared.
Yeah.
They treated it like a real interview.
Yeah. And, you know, I'll end with this. Resumes, you know, I think we're reading a lot about how to prepare a good resume, or, you know, what that should look like. Again, you don't want it to be distracting, but I will tell you this, you're going to have a follow-up email from TeamWomen. And in that is a link to our latest blog, and it gives very specific details on how to put together a successful resume. And we even have a link to a template, a free template that you can put your information into. We want to do everything we can to help people out. I mean, it's kind of who we are as individuals. And then we're also providing a 15-minute free consultation. If you're interested, you want us to review your resume. Once you've put that together, we are absolutely willing to provide that feedback. The other week, I talked to a woman who has the most amazing background and 20 years of experience. And I got her resume, and I couldn't even understand what it was that she was interested in doing. And I spent 20 minutes talking to her about it, and it totally changed her confidence and her excitement about getting that in front of people, because she realized it was confusing for her too. And so we're happy to help you out. So you'll get the link, use that template. It's a great template. There's 2 different options for you. And then reach out if you want some expert advice on resumes.
I mean, you have given us so much. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate this. And so all of our viewers, chat's going crazy. And somebody said she took 3 pages of notes, and it's great information. But I do want to ask one more question that came in the Q&A.
Yes.
From Boyd, our friend. What if you're in the middle of the hiring process before COVID started? How can you stay in front of them? And I just thought that was such a good question. You know, for people who are like maybe going down the fast track and then boom, this happened. And, you know, so things are just on hold.
Awesome question. So here's the deal. We actually have some clients that put some positions on hold, and they were so close to making that hire. Here 2 things. Number one is, how is that company responding right now, and what are they doing to make sure that somebody like us, or even that candidate that they were very interested in, is feeling, right? The communication is key, but it's not just communication from that company or that employer. It is also communication from you, the candidate. If you remain interested, if you're still excited, continue to reach out, say, hey, I'm healthy, I'm here, I'm gonna be here when we get through this. Is there anything that I can do now? Is there anything that, you know, I'm not looking for the offer letter, but is there anything that I could do at this point in time? Just even asking those questions and showing that level of engagement shows what kind of character you have in this type of situation. And that's gonna stand out, right? It's just offering up, what can I do to help? Are you healthy? Are you safe? You know, that is so important. So the communication, just don't give up on it. It is discouraging, but just have faith. We're going to get through this, and you will still be front of mind when this turns around by doing those things.
And that's just awesome. You're giving us the language. Number one, how to ask for the order, the interview, right? I'm just saying, I really listen. How do I move to the next step? You know, and then also how to stay engaged after. Those are the language that you provide is really, really awesome, and just give all of us out there confidence to know what the right steps are to take moving forward. One final minute over here, but the last one question is, where Alissa and Lucas and their family love cake. So pick a spot, put in your chat, answer question, and you too. We still have 68 people on the could potentially win. So
yeah, and that broke up a little bit. So it's, where do we love to vacation the most?
Yeah, okay.
A town.
Yep. Well, there is if you really want to get specific, there is a town.
It's a big town though.
Yeah, we loved. Oh, Laura.
I know. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can't thank you enough. Again, attendees, you're going to be receiving an email from TeamWomen with resources and with the video replay. So can't thank you enough for your time. We hope you know, again, you've just been so encouraging to all of our attendees. You're getting just a ton of response on great vacations, but it's making
you know.
vacation.
I love it.
We can
Let's
start
go on
traveling.
vacation.
I'm going to use this as the list of places to go.
I know. I know. Well,
Exactly.
and I just say one quick thing. I want to thank you, Katie, TeamWomen. Honestly, you guys are amazing. So proud to be sponsors, to support TeamWomen. And, you know, honestly, if anybody's listening that's not a member, be a member.
Yep.
Let's come together. It's just such an uplifting group of your organization. I couldn't be more proud. And I know Lucas feels the same way to be a part of this. So thank you for this opportunity as well.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Reach out.
Yes. Don't be afraid to reach out to us.
So that was just awesome. I really appreciate it. It's, you know, it's wonderful to be in partnership with both of you. So, and your whole family. Yeah. So, well, we wanted to just say, we hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. Watch your emails. You'll be more information. And thank you for all of your help. And thank you all of our attendees and your membership, our members, to our non-members. We're happy to have you all here today. Look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.